Hi there everyone, Scapegoat Stephen back with another video battle report. This one was filmed at our Fanitball club, the Digi Diner in Margate, Kent, with a lovely man who I'm sure many of you know, Mike Pollard. He's a local pundit to the area of Kent in the UK. Very nice chap. I think one of the first times I've ever played him, despite us moving in the same War Machine and Guild Ball circles previously. So before we jump into the match report, I just want to quickly just flash this image up. So yeah, veteran Boar as a captain, really interesting. So this video was actually, the match report was filmed a couple of weeks back, but due to some personal circumstances I've only just got round to editing, and this guy came out this week as a reveal. Really interesting direction for Steamforged to go. I'll be interested to know how the lore, how the story works out for this captain. And actually, at the time of recording, it's the 16th of February now, he's out in a couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see quite what he brings to the butchers, whether he brings like single target damage as opposed to the other captains that are a bit more, Ox is a bit more supporty, and then you've got Fillet who's a bit more sort of spread damage and goal scory. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what he brings to the team. And from a story perspective, I know it's been floated around on various places. Is he there as a fall guy? You know, they know that the world of Guild Ball is becoming more violent. Is this guy here to take a hit if someone tries to take out a top-ranking butcher? Is he there to give the crowd more of what they want with the blood and the mess and everything that will entail? Who knows? We'll find out in a couple of weeks. So we'll go on to the game. So we have Butchers on the left and Navigators on the right. We did do a bit of drafting here, so we've ended up with Oxen Princess versus Windfinder and Wanda. We draft Boiler, Azimuth, Original Brisket, Ebb, Shank, Horizon, Tenderizer and Siren. So an interesting mix. My plan here was to try and lure and Butchers model to their death every turn. We'll see how well that pans out. So I actually decided to kick into the Butchers because I had this idea of trying to pull one in and beat the snot out of them, because you know Navigators have a surprising amount of killie. So I put the ball on Horizon to do the kickoff. It's got that lovely barrier in the centre of the pitch. So going down the Navigator's side, you've got from the top to the bottom Wandfinder, Wanda, Windfinder, Ebb, Siren, Horizon with the ball and Azimuth. And coming down the Butcher's side, you've got Brisket, Boiler, Ox, Princess, Tenderizer and Shank. So the ball scatters there, pretty much exactly where I wanted it. So I'm happy. So Mike activates Shank and he will go for a sprint, followed by a where they'd go. And I take a hideous amount of time, sorry, to allocate my influence before Mike actually does his activation. So yeah, so Shank will do for a bit of a sprint. He'll where they'd go to get the ball. He's then going to kick to space to get the ball back towards the Butcher's line to give him that control over the ball. Valuable resource as it is in Guild Ball, because he's just out of being able to reach someone. The ball does scatter though, and it ends up being snapped on Boiler. So I choose to activate Siren next. Again, this idea of let's bring someone into my lines. She lures Shank into base to base. She does bonus time to get that, make sure the shot connects, and then hits him for a momentous dodge. Boiler will pass the ball to Ox. He's then going to sprint, and he attempts to mark target my captain Windfinder, because obviously, you know, make me worried about bringing her in. He misses the first shot, then goes for it a second time and gets it. So I'm trying to decide who do I pull the trigger on at the moment, given the players I have available to me. In the end, I decide, you know what, before Shank tries to run away, before someone passes him the ball and he dodges, let's get in there. So Windfinder charges Shank, wraps for an I Spy knockdown and does a momentous 2. Then does a momentous 2 and a dodge on the wrap, and then does the same again. So basically done 6 damage to Shank, knocked him down, generated quite a bit of momentum actually. So then we'll pass the turn to Mike. He decides to just jog Princess, nice and easy. I activate Azimuth next. So I debate whether or not to charge or to just walk into Shank. In the end I decide to go for a jog. And I attack Shank. I get a disarm on the rat because there's not a lot you can do on the rat when you don't want to kill someone. And a momentous 3. I then get a momentous netted dodge, which was a mistake to dodge closer to Shank, which we'll discover why shortly. A momentous double push. A momentous 3, a non-momentous 1. There's a lot of wrapping going on here, given that I've only got the 3 attacks. But as you can see, I've got, again, a large pool of momentum sat on my side of the pitch, ready for a takeout on Shank at the top of the next turn. And sort of, a first activation takeout, basically. As you see, there's a lot of tokens there on Shank. Tenderizer sprints and Wander jogs. Ox will sprint, and he'll pass the ball to Brisket, who then does a dodge off that to pull herself forward. Ebb jogs, because he's got a hideously long jog, and engages Shank. He hits Shank for a Sprunger leak, I believe, and does 2 damage on Ox, Princess, and Boiler, just because, he's only got Brisket left to activate, so I'm not expecting him to be able to charge anyone, really. So Brisket does super shot herself, sprints, and she goes for a shot and scores. So she gets a screamer, takes the score to 4-0 in the Butcher's favour, and then we kick the ball back out. So we've just got Horizon left. So Horizon is going to go for a jog, snap the ball, and then pass to Windfinder. Windfinder will then dodge, but I haven't left a big enough gap for Windfinder to dodge through that gap between Shank and Azimuth. There was a big tactical error on my part, and actually it caused issues at the start of the next turn. He'll then he'll do his 5-inch dodge that Horizon has. So going into turn 2, the Butchers have 2 momentum and the Navs have a 9. So I'm, likely to get the first turn, which I do. Butchers play the Poised card, which goes on Boiler, and I play back in the game because I'm half expecting someone to get taken out this turn, and I want to redistribute their influence if they do. So I'm going to go for a 6-point Windfinder activation this turn, because it seems like the smart thing to do. I will attack Shank, because he's knocked down. It's going to be quite easy to take him out. Which Windfinder does, because she just needs a momentous 2, because Shank's down on 1 HP from the end of last turn. So that's 4-2 now in favour of the Butchers. I then use my legendary. I only catch Brisket, but I need to dodge my captain forward. So I do that with Windfinder with the ball. I then choose to charge Tenderizer. Mike does no reaction because he's worried that I'll just trigger Ice Spy and knock him down anyway, which I do, as it happens. So I Spy and I get a momentous dodge, I believe. Or the momentous dodge might be on the next attack. But then I get a momentous double dodge tackle, which I need to get in range of the goal. So I needed to get that hit. So I then, with my last point of influence, take a shot on goal and score. So that takes it to 4-6 in the Navigator's favour. Again, that's an example of what Windfinder can do in a 6 influence turn if she's set up right. So the ball gets kicked out. It scatters really badly and ends up hitting the barrier. So actually, it's quite a bit back from everyone, really. There's not really much of an option to get to it. So Tenderizer will clear conditions and make an attack on Windfinder. Gets a double push off and then charges Siren. I defensive stance and counter attack with Siren, taking her up to defense 6. Tenderizer, however, on the charge does manage to get a knockdown on her, which obviously makes her a little bit more fragile, given that she's normally defense 4-0. Against men, it's +1 defense. So being knocked down, she's just a standard 3-0, 4-0 against men. So against the Butcher's high tack, that's quite nasty. So I then look at, can Horizon get to the ball. Horizon cannot get to the ball because I can't get through that gap between the barrier and Windfinder, which is unfortunate. There were a couple of times in this game where actually I kind of wish I'd taken Fathom instead, to be perfectly honest, because she's faster. So in the end I go with Ebb and I charge Tenderizer. I'll get 1 damage on the wrap and a momentous knockdown. Then I get a non-momentous Sprunger Leak on my other attack, just to do a bit more damage to Tenderizer and lower his armour while he's knocked down. Ox Legendaries. Now this is quite worrying for me. So he charges Azimuth, but he's outside of base to base. So I declare Poised and Defensive Stance, taking me up to Defence 6. He does a momentous 4 to me despite that. So my counter attack, and I dodge and disarm him. So I go back directly backwards, so I'm out of melee, so he can't attack me, and I lower his attack by 2. However, Ox then attacks a knockdown Siren, does a momentous 3, a momentous 4, and a momentous 3 to take her out, which puts us on 6-6. And actually, there's a lot of momentum stacking up on the Butcher's side now. So I move the influence that was on Siren to Horizon, thanks to the plot card. So I'm going to look to see if Azimuth can reach the ball. Even with an obscene amount of dodges that he can do, he's not going to get there. I do measure it out a couple of times just to see is there any way that I possibly can. What you can't see at the moment is Princess is actually behind that barrier as well. So I could potentially attack and dodge off her. I've got a sprint. It's with his 3 influence, it's not doable. If he was a 4 influence model, maybe. But at the moment, he is only a 3 influence model because he's balanced around full speed ahead and his other quite good rules, actually, to be perfectly honest. So in the end, I go for, I think, I buy an attack on Ox and get a netted dodge on the wrap and a momentous 3. Now maybe this was on, no, this would have been on, sorry, this was on Tenderizer, so I get the momentous 3 on Tenderizer and a netted dodge on the wrap, which I hit Ox. I make another attack, get another momentous 3 and a 1 on the wrap against Tenderizer. Then finally, the same again, another momentous 3 and a non-momentous 1 on the wrap. So Princess jogs, snaps the ball, unsnaps the ball to Boiler, and then jogs to be base to base with Ebb. Horizon, with his 2 newly gained influence, charges Tenderizer, kicks off a triple wrap all the way to the 4, so I do a double unexpected arrival and 1 damage on the final wrap. We ended up moving everything in one go because we forgot about the way that the trigger happens on unexpected arrival. In the end, it didn't make a difference. We discussed it very briefly after we'd moved the models, but I could have just pushed them to the edge of the 3 and then pushed them the rest. So essentially, was able to get Princess out of melee with Ebb, mostly, and to push her away. So Boiler activates. He will unsnap the ball to Brisket, and he will jog to Ebb, and he will make an attack. Ebb will counter, which in hindsight was a bit silly given Boiler's a 4-1 and in cover, which basically pretty much puts me at like the equivalent of attack 2, so it was not a good idea. He does 2 momentous damage and bleed. Obviously it would have been much higher. My counter attack does 1 damage back. He does a momentous 4 that goes down to 2 because of Ebb's special rules. He then does a momentous 5 that goes down to 2, again because of Ebb's special rules, and then a momentous 2 for the final attack. So Wanda jogs to engage Ox, just to again give me another crowd out there if I want to make some attacks on Ox next turn, and he heals Ebb by 4. Brisket will jog, but she will choose to stay in the cover, and she's going to throw dirty knives at Ebb. So she's going to end up doing, because of Ox being nearby, a total of 4 damage and poison to Ebb. So he's going to be taking 5 condition damage at the end of the turn, and that'll kill him. So that puts, at the end of the turn, in the conditions step, 8-6 in favour of the Butchers. So now the Butchers have got a ton more momentum than I have. So Butchers got 6, I've got 2. I end up putting the +1 tack card on Azimuth, which I forget about most of the time for the rest of the turn, and Mike plays Seize the Initiative. So Ox will dodge, and Azimuth will also dodge backwards. So Ox will stand up, and he'll just buy some attacks into Horizon. So he does 2 momentous damage, 2 momentous damage, 2 momentous damage, followed by 3 momentous damage. takes him up to 9-6 in favour of the Butchers, and he heals Tenderizer for 4. So we realise I forgot to jog on, or in fact even allocate influence. So we're just going to quickly do that now. So you can see you've got at the top of the screen, bear in mind Brisket has the ball at the moment as well. So at the top of the screen you've got Siren. So I activate Siren. Oh, sorry, no. Now Ox is buying attacks. We must have been doing this rules discussion about the unexpected arrival. My apologies. Sort of just then at the end of one turn. So there you go. Ox done his attacks, taking out Horizon. So Siren will charge Brisket. The hope is to seduce her to kick the ball away towards Azimuth. It won't quite reach Azimuth unless there's a good scatter. That's the plan. So I'm going to charge. I bonus time to 8 dice. I lose a dice down to 7 because there's 1 cover. I need 2 successes. Unfortunately, I get 1 total success, which is a momentous dodge. So I'm a little bit disappointed by that, to be perfectly honest, because I was hoping to get that ball away. Obviously, with the score being what it is at the moment, there's a worry that he'll just shoot and score, and that's the game over. Instead, Mike chooses to activate Boiler. So Boiler will charge Siren. Now he does a momentous 2 damage and bleed, followed by 1 damage, followed by 1 damage. Because she is a defense 5-0, he's got no gang ups from any other support. So Azimuth, we're just checking, has he got a line to charge without going through Ox's melee? Mostly because I just don't want him to be knocked down. Like, he could probably take whatever damage gets thrown at him. So I charge Brisket. Brisket defensive stances. I do 1 damage because she's defense 6 against me and in cover. Then I do a netted dodge and the ball scatters behind Brisket. Turns out when a model can get up to 6, was a defense 6, armor 1 in cover, it's not happy for for when your 3 influence model charges it. So Princess jogs, snaps the ball, and unsnaps the ball behind Brisket at this stage. So Mike was sort of like trying to decide how does he do this, because he probably needs Brisket to score, and obviously he doesn't want me to be getting any of my players near the ball. And I think the only people that have got any sort of decent turn of speed are Ebb and my captain, but I've used my legendary, so I'm not going to get in as fast as I could. So in the end, Windfinder is just going to sprint to Ox, because it's pretty much the only place she can get that's of use. So she'll just go around that barrier there, and she will buy an attack on Ox. So he does declare a counter attack, so I momentous dodge base to base with him, and he does 2 damage on the counter attack. And then on my follow up attack, I do an I Spy knockdown on him. So Mike's trying to figure out who does he activate, because he's only got 1 momentum at this stage. So he goes with Tenderizer, who goes and buys an attack on Azimuth. He does a momentous 2 damage to me. So I had declared a counter attack, so my defense is up to 5. I then counter attack him and disarm him. And then he manages to get off a double push on his next attack and then knocks me down on his final attack. So when Azimuth is knocked down and he's got no armour, it's not a good place to be. So Wanda jogs in an attempt to go get the ball, forgetting that Boiler now in Season 4 has got a very low knockdown, so the parting blow hits the knockdown. So in the end, Brisket will activate, she will clear conditions, she will jog, and she will attack Siren. So she does a momentous 3 to Siren, which actually takes Siren out. Thanks to the Boiler damaging her earlier, it takes him up to an 11-6 score in favour of Mike. He then super shots and bonus times the shot on the goal, and yeah, Mike wins it with a screamer from Brisket. So actually, we end up with a 15-6 score to the Butchers. I think for me, very much like I said previously, I think Horizon was a poor choice. to take at this particular. I think I should have gone with Fathom. I'm not a huge fan of Horizon, but I do need to play more games with him. So 15-6 in favour of the Butchers.